This week in Jamaica Now.
We are not engaged in an exploitative or abusive relationship, development partnership with our Chinese counterparts.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness dismisses claims Jamaica is overrun by Chinese interests. Two former PNP councillors crossed the floor in Westmoreland.
Did I wear the chain again? For those reasons? Yes.
A man in a chain skit at a PNP rally says he does not regret his role despite backlash. And brace yourself, Jamaica faces more drought woes. I'm Jovan Johnson and this is Jamaica Now. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has dismissed claims that Jamaica is being overrun with Chinese interests, asserting that only 4.5% of Jamaica's debt is owed to China. Mr. Holness was speaking on Thursday at the opening of the Maypen to Williamsfield leg of the Southern Coastal Highway, which was constructed by China Harbour Engineering Company. He argued that people are insistent on creating a false impression.
754 workers were employed on the project, on a Chinese-funded project. 603 are Jamaicans. Again, to dispel this quite unfortunate and narrow-minded perspective of countries and their development partnerships. We are not engaged in an exploitative or abusive relationship, development partnership with our Chinese counterparts. It is a mutually beneficial and respectful relationship. The project has now achieved practical completion and has entered the two-year defects liabilities phase.
The Inter-American Development Bank is Jamaica's single largest creditor, accounting for 12.1% of the national debt. And opposition spokesman on transport Michael Phillips welcomed the new highway leg but had a warning.
Jamaica's commitment to a highway network must continue in the interest of all Jamaicans. It must take into consideration environmental, land, economic, and other developmental changes. The policy must also be mindful that highways are supported by a network of arterial and minor roads, which connects citizens to the highway. So it must be complement, not substitute. It must be a complement, but not a substitute for the remainder of the network, which must be maintained and kept in a drivable condition for all road users.
Meanwhile, Mr. Holness has announced that motorists will travel for free until year-end on the four-lane 27.5 kilometres thoroughfare which links Clarendon to Manchester. The project, which is part of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, was funded through a loan from China at a cost of $188 million. Two former People's National Party councillors in Westmoreland crossed the floor on Thursday to join the ruling Jamaica Labour Party JLP. Councillors Ian Miles and Garfield James announced they will no longer sit as independent members in the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation, but as members of the JLP. That decision means the JLP and the PNP have an equal number of councillors, 6, in the municipal corporation. In July, Miles, James of the Sheffield Division and Lawton Mackenzie of the Grangeale Division, who were elected on PNP tickets, resigned from the party, declaring themselves as independent. They were upset the PNP facilitated the selection of former MP Ian Hills to be the party's representative for the Westmoreland Western constituency. On Friday, Mr. Lawton rejoined the PNP, a move that is likely to keep the PNP's Bertel Moore as mayor and chairman of the municipal corporation. The man who sparked controversy when he was released from chains by PNP President Mark Golding during a constituency conference on September 10 is unrepentant about his role in the affair. Claude Big Stone Sinclair instead says he's very happy to see that his actions caused the nation's eyes to open to the mental and psychological chains binding it.
A lot of people are afraid to come forward and talk about the weight that is on their neck. I'm not afraid. Marcus Garvey said, if you're afraid of... Men who are earnest are not afraid of consequences.
Wearing the chain was sending a message to the Jamaica Labour Party.
Was sending a message to the people of Jamaica. Yeah. It's time for them to open up their eyes and see what is happening around them and make the decision that they see fit. Who do you want to lead? You want someone who's concerned about your welfare to lead you, or you don't want someone who's concerned about your welfare.
The PNP has faced backlash on social media over the skit, which some persons say trivializes the brutality of slavery. Culture Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange issued a strong condemnation of what she called the deeply offensive participation by opposition leader Mark Golding. She demanded an apology from Mr. Golding, saying she was deeply disappointed and horror-struck by his actions. Global ratings agency Standard & Poor's S&P has upgraded the Government of Jamaica's credit rating from B+ to BB- with a stable outlook. It's the best credit rating that Jamaica has received from S&P since it started rating the country's sovereign debt in 1999. S&P says the stable outlook reflects their expectation that the government will remain committed to prudent fiscal policies and reducing debt, as well as supportive economic policies, including a flexible exchange rate regime and effective monetary policy. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the historic upgrade is wonderful news for Jamaica.
The benefit of this credit upgrade to Jamaica is that it provides the ability for Jamaica to get better terms on financing, which can save a substantial amount of money in the long run, leaving more room for spending on education, health, security, infrastructure, and in other areas. It also makes Jamaica a more attractive place to invest. This, in turn, will lead to more investments, more economic activity, and more jobs for Jamaicans. In evaluating Jamaica's credit rating, S&P would have looked at Jamaica's economic performance or economic policy framework and projections of Jamaica's economic trajectory, among other factors. As such, this upgrade is a victory for economic policy focus of pursuing economic independence, building economic resilience, and expanding economic opportunity for all.
And the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce has applauded Jamaica's upgraded credit rating from S&P, but it says the government must explain to Jamaicans how they will benefit from the development. A $500,000 reward is being offered for information that could lead to the safe return of opposition lawmaker Phillip Paulwell's 10-month-old daughter, Sarayah, and her mother, 27-year-old Toshyna Patterson. They were reported missing on September 9. Ms. Patterson is of dark complexion, slim build and about 5 feet 4 inches tall, while Sarayah is of dark complexion and about 75 centimeters tall. The Halfway Tree police say about 7 a.m. on Saturday, September 9, Ms. Patterson and her daughter were last seen at their gate. Ms. Patterson was dressed in a brown tube top, army green sweatpants and a pair of black Crocs, while Sarayah was dressed in a pink onesie. Now, Mr. Paulwell is the Member of Parliament for Kingston Eastern and Port Royal and leader of opposition business in the House of Representatives. He says the situation is scary and comes at a time when he's been threatened by scammers who he said have hacked his phone and banking data and are demanding money to release them. Government Minister in charge of Water, Senator Matthew Samuda, is putting the country on alert to brace for challenges in the upcoming months as Jamaica continues to reel from below-average rainfall. Mr. Samuda said as at Monday, the Mona Reservoir in St. Andrew was at 36.1%, or approximately 27 days of storage at normal usage. While at the Hermitage Dam, the level grew to 53.7% following rainfall over the past 2 weeks. Senator Samuda says the government will be spending an additional $150 million to bolster the response to the ongoing drought.
Is there hope? Is there expectation of increased rainfall? Well, there is an expectation of increased rainfall going from mid-September into October, and we are seeing some of that already. There's a 50% projection that we could see above normal rainfall, but it is not conclusive that Jamaica will experience above normal rainfall. As such, we have to manage the resource that we have very carefully. Now, we have seen some rain and persons are tempted to believe, oh, well, we got rain yesterday, I should have water tomorrow. The reality is that the increases in rainfall that we've experienced since March have not been sufficient to recharge our water systems, either the NWC systems or indeed the municipal systems.
And Jamaica is facing the risk of a possible outbreak of dengue fever amid rising cases. According to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, as of September 11, there were 316 suspected, presumed or confirmed dengue cases across the country. This is significantly more when compared to the corresponding period in 2022. Data from the Ministry's National Surveillance Unit show that for the same period last year, the country recorded 65 instances of the mosquito-borne disease, making the figure seen in 2023 an almost 5-fold increase. Education Minister Fayval Williams has once again cautioned school administrators and teachers against punishing students by denying them access to schools. Her warning follows Jonathan Grant High School saying it may lock out students who turn up for school with a Dunce branded school bag. Principal Dr. O'Neill Ankle acknowledged that he would be criticized for his stance, but said he did not care. But Minister Williams said the age-old practice of denying access to education as punishment is not only counterproductive, it is illegal. She said children are minors and it is clear they are victims of the failures of the agents of socialization. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, we'll look at the homecoming celebrations for Antonio Watson, the first Jamaican to win the 400-meter World Championship title in 40 years.